of formula or way for you to build your organization with high transparency and collaboration in the core of it. But my idea here is to present options and to present a case study of how we work with some of that core principles in my organization and some other organizations. So I hope you like it. I think I'm going to talk for around 30 minutes, and so we have 10 to 15 minutes to continue that conversation. So just to present who I am Victor. I'm from Brazil, even though yesterday someone asked me, are you really sure you're not from Indian descent? And but he was so convincing that probably I'm going to have to look into it to understand that. I'm a computer scientist. I've been working for the last 20 years in software development, IT, managing teams, leading organizations. I'm the CEO and founder of Lambda 3, it's a software development company, services oriented in Brazil. And since 2017, I'm one of the board of directors for the Agile Alliance. In my work in the Agile Alliance, I've been working as a shepherd for initiatives, I've been working as a treasurer, and I've been participating in most of the events around the world with the Alliance. So I guess my main question and the main quest that we face in a day like today is to me the focus in two main questions is how can we create organizations that are more humane, and what I mean by that is we know that the way that we organize as companies nowadays brings a lot of challenges but a lot of problems. So in my community, people are basically going sick with low mental health, with high levels of stress, even though there is this perception that we somehow are being successful, we somehow are getting better in the way that we interact and collaborate with people. So how can we create organizations that are not necessarily completely focused on high growth, take no prisoners, and do the success at every cost? In many ways, how can we bring performance in innovation and growth to the organizations that we have, even though we don't want people to have a heart attack in 2 years working for our organizations? We don't want people to physically attack each other when they disagree in a meeting. We don't want people to believe that they cannot be trusted or they don't trust anyone in the organization. So my main focus of study, after I spend a lot of time in multiple countries and a lot of time working in big organizations, is can we solve the same challenges that every organization has with a different perspective in mind? Can we go through the same problems that every organization have, but come out from different angles and try new things and work? And I guess one of the things that we need to look at is when we look at the way that we create value and the value creation throughout history. So we started with local markets, high customization, dependency of the individual knowledge and experience in order to create markets and value. So there was no idea of big production, global markets. This is from so Industrial Revolution. What it did was bringing value creation to a formal aspect, which is everything has to be standardized. We need to create process that would allow us to replace anyone at any time, and the work continues to get done in a proper way. So that generated in the whole industry, in the multiple industries where this affected, this idea that we need to separate who defines work with who do the work. Right, so whoever will try to be, or whoever was the most productive person in a setting of an organization would be would be put in a managerial position because they knew how to make that work properly, and would be in charge of ensuring that productivity would improve. We would create rules and processes and prescribe the way that we work so that we could get better results. So that, and all of our perception and all the studies that we have with from administrative and managerial disciplines come from that time. We divide disciplines in university because we need to have the perception of I need to study one specific discipline and then I need to study another one, and not necessarily connecting both of these worlds. We talk about software development without talking about people management. We're talking about emotions. We're talking about without talking about all of those subjects, because we believe that the only thing that we needed to know is how to write software, how to operate, without thinking in a more holistic way of how intertwined and how all of these disciplines influence each other. And we created organizations around that, and we created governments around that, and we created societies around this idea that everyone has a specific defined role and they need to play their part in order to have the whole organization function as a machine. And that helped us to increase the reach and increase the amount of work that was possible. But after around the 70s, we came up to a different point in management, which is basically markets are global. The barrier of entrance in the new market is super low. Customization is a priority when we're talking about production nowadays. So we don't want a T model car that can be any color but blue or black. And now we are talking about global markets, any community, anywhere in the world connected to network can be able to compete with companies with much more resources and much more expectations than normally would. So we need to. So you perceive that value creation has come from normal, formal, to dynamic. And we define management as a formal discipline. We define the way that we organize work as a formal discipline. We need to go back to the idea of dynamic value creation. When you look at ways of, when you look at companies and you look at the lifespan of companies that as they become the biggest companies in the market, this is a study showing the average lifespan of a company on the Fortune 500. And since the 60s, we were talking about organizations that would last 60 years as the biggest company in their field. And now we're seeing that number decrease by a big velocity and a huge amount of reduction in the years that they go. So a company can start and become one of the biggest companies in their field in a matter of a couple of years or 3 years. So we see that a lot with startups. We see that a lot with industries that decided to move beyond the ways that they work. So we need to have a different way of approaching business. And I would like to talk about a few examples of how that works so that I can talk about the learnings and experiences that we were trying. So Hire is just one way for you to understand. Hire is an industry in China, over 300,000 employees, and the way that they decided to organize their work, so normally for a company of that size, they would have a super hierarchical structure and chain of command to decide and describe how work gets done. So they would have a big board of directors that define a strategy. That strategy has to be drilled down to the whole organization, and they had to follow instructions of the actions that they need to do. So they come up with a different idea. They're using a different process. So the organization is divided in cells, and those cells are completely independent to decide what management strategies and what management, how they do the work. They create fridges, microwaves, and products like that. and they can compete with each other within the organization to see who can get a new client in a better way. So they started to create this idea of an internal market of sales, with the intention of allowing those cells to be completely autonomous and independent. They even done that with services like HR, admin, and infrastructure. So those teams that in an organization are normally basic back office work, they actually became companies themselves. And then a cell like that, if the HR is not serving them in a proper way, that cell can go and hire a new company. And so that creates some sort of an incentive for this team to actually improve processes, create better value to the outer layer of cells that go and work for the market. And so when there is a big demand or a big ask from a client, all of those cells can compete to whoever is going to deliver the demand and the request at a lower price and a better quality. So that also creates some sort of a pressure in a way that those cells can function more efficiently. So the way that I'm seeing this is, there might be something in here, and this is part of this model is influenced by Neil Fellings from the Beyond Budgeting, and he's been talking about a lot of that in the later years. So can we have something like that with a company that is smaller than that, with 300,000 people? You can have a cell like that with 1,000 people, right? So it's a big company that needs to figure out how to do work. So one of the things that they do, they have another internal cell that helps each of the other cells to improve their skills. So almost like a consulting company inside the organization to help some of those cells to work and to improve. There are many other examples. So when we're talking about management, there's always this idea that IT knows better of how running businesses and how managing people than industries. So, but I don't want to bring multiple examples of IT startups that don't necessarily need to make money for a living because they're all VC invested. And I brought industry examples. Perszorg, I don't know how to pronounce it, sorry. It's a healthcare organization, and they have this amazing idea. It works in Netherlands, and they divide the place of influence of a team at Butzorg in teams of 12 people. 12 people choose what region they're gonna work. They decide how they're gonna do the work. They decide where they're gonna rent a place. So they do assisted healthcare. They do for elderly support for elderly people. They have a holistic approach for caring and improving quality of life for people. So the idea here is we generate decentralized ways of working, but they create values and guidelines so that an independent cell can choose how they're going to work in their community. So here there is a big connection with how the organization functions depends solely entirely by this a dozen people cell. Favi Industries they build automotive machinery, and they have this idea of everyone is autonomous and independent of how they do the work, and they can choose whatever they do and whenever they do stuff in the organization. So if you want to hire someone, okay, go ahead and do it. If you want to create a new product that would act on the behalf of the market that they are doing, you can go up and do it. The same thing with Morningstar. Morningstar is a tomato producer. So imagine tomato farming. and creating products derived from tomatoes, like ketchup, purees, extract. So here is the same type of thing happens, which is they have an interesting process here, which is you as an individual have to create almost like a business case of how you're going to achieve the objectives of the organization. That might be create the best tomato products that can possibly exist. And you go to whomever your work interferes, and you sell that idea to them, right? So you create a contract that's based on how we're going to achieve the objectives of the organization, and what do you need to achieve those objectives in the organization. And basically you have full autonomy to choose how much money you're going to spend, how many new, or how you hire new employees to participate in your project. After a year, you have to present the results of that, so that you can continue in the organization, so that you can be rewarded in the results that you had. So this is really cool. The same thing for Sun Hydroelectrics. They've been running for many years now, and they have when the journalists were really excited about Google and the way that Google works with used to work, or work that was smaller, about open space plan and the way they organize work in a more of autonomous way. Sun Hydroelectrics were doing that like 20 years before. When we're talking about ideas of how we're going to achieve that perception of high autonomy, high transparency, there are many models that help us decide what to do. So just 4 models I'm presenting here. The Business Agility Institute model of how you interact on operations, leadership, and individuals. Holacracy is one other model, much more prescribed in a way to do, is influenced by the sociocracy work. Agile Bossa Nova is the idea of putting together beyond budgeting, beyond budgeting aspects, sociocracy aspects, open space as a way to organize work, and Agile as a way to deliver. And also the Enterprise Business Agility Institute that also has many ideas of what organizational agility represents. What I want to say about all of those models, they're just ideas and ways of you to organize work. They should not be taken as recipes. They should not be taken as strict rules of how we're going to run your organization. The best thing for you to do is actually knowing multiple of those models and understand how your own context works and how you can use some of the ideas in those multiple projects, multiple models to make it work for in your case, right? In the end, every time we're talking about organization transformation, we are actively acting on the emerging changes in the human system. So people in your organizations, we cannot define the work solely on processes, solely on the way that the organization works in an idea that if I define the rules, people will follow. We need to be more aware that we're fundamentally changing the human systems inside of that organization, and for that we need to change the way that we work. A way that I look at this is we create organization based in values and principles that create environments and places where we work that somehow promote behaviors that reinforce those values and principles. So if we start with an organization that believes that we cannot trust people, we create environments of high control that somehow promote behaviors of not trusting each other, of competing with each other, and that reinforces the notion that people are not worth it. If we believe that people don't want to do a good job, people are only motivated by money and greed, we create environments that somehow reward those behaviors, and in a way promote behaviors that can be quite problematic in the organizations. So when you look at so when you look at how to influence the human systems, the idea is there are two ways that you can look at it: structure, processes, competence, and behavior. And the interactions between all of those four aspects can be used for you to improve the organization. So Hendrik Esser, in the work that he did with Ericsson, described a way for you to experiment in your organization on what are based on the desired and the desired state or the problem that you want to solve. Instead of prescribing ways of work, starts to look at what are the behaviors that I need to ensure, or what are the behaviors that I desire to have, based on how do I look into paradigms and attitudes, how do I look in values, how do I look at the needs that need to be met, what competencies that we need to acquire, or competencies we need to create, ability, the number of people, the hidden talents that we might not know in the organization, how we create structures that somehow enforce and moves us towards that desired state, and how we create processes, practices, tools in order to also promote that. So when I started my company, the one that I'm going to talk, we started with an idea, and normally when we have problems, this is somehow how we use a process of problem solving or organizational change. When you look at whatever you want to move in the organization, is this a matter of changing the behavior? Is this a matter of creating new structures? Is this a matter of creating new processes? So this is a way of doing it. So Lambda 3, this is my company. We are a software providing development shop. We are almost 120 people now. We've been running for 10 years, and these are some of the things that happen in the organization. This was a conversation about a decision that the business partner, the founders did, and you can see by the faces of this person and that person that conversation was not the best possible conversation that we could have, but we needed to have that conversation. First of all, the idea is how can we create an organization with an agile mindset as the way that we work in all the levels of the organization. We always talk about business ideas and disruption on the markets, but can we deliver the same type of work but with management style as a transformational tool for that industry? So we never talk about how we solve the same usual Red Sea problem with a different strategy in how we organize for work and how we put collaboration and transparency as the main direction. So what I'm going to tell you is how we solved, how we learned. We made a lot of mistakes, and we continue to do a lot of mistakes. We're not really ashamed of doing mistakes. We do mistakes all the time, and this is part of how we do it. We're talking about the way the delivery works, governance works, and strategy works. When we're talking about delivery, for us, it's normally acquisition and delivery, the main aspect of the value stream that we have. We need to find new work, we need to deliver new work, and that influences the way that we work. How do we do this work? It's based on the ideas of process freedom, values-oriented, end-to-end view. When we're talking about process freedom, is normally teams have sole autonomy and decide how they're going to create their processes, but they have to communicate globally on how they're doing their work. And we created a small tool to help us have a conversation of how the work's being delivered. Values oriented, so the organization defines what values are important, and for us is collaboration, transparency, and quality as the main values of the organization, and the teams decide what values that they wanted to ensure in their own organization. Teams are from 3 to 12 people in the most, and so a team value might be you have to ask questions whenever you have a doubt. It can be we do not work over 40 hours a week. And this end up influencing most of the organizational values. And when we're talking about end-to-end view, the whole organization focus on 4 aspects of measurement. So there are no other ways of measuring your work about than that. So profitability is important. When we're talking profitability per client that we work, and the whole organization profitability is important. We would normally talk about health and not success, because we personally believe that it's more about how well-being of the work that we're doing is conducted, and not necessarily the notion of success that you normally see. So we're always looking at how the health of the client, the relationship with the client, and the health of the teams, and quality of delivery, which is basically our perception of what quality means, and flow, how efficient is our whole process. And for NDA reasons, I cannot show you the board, but we do have a board that's our own value stream of work. That's basically everyone decides how they're going to bring the information to the board. There's no prescribed rules of how this works, but it is a conversation about what clients we have, what the financials of those clients, how's the engagement that we're having in that client, how's the health of the team and the client now, what victories that we facing on in that engagement, and what are attention points or problems at the moment, and what was the last executive checkpoint that we have with our clients. So those that, do you want to ask? We already working with we have a company also in Canada. So the idea is continue that type of structure, but we're gonna need to change the way that we communicate. We're gonna need to change the way that we organize so that information is available. And probably we're gonna make a lot of mistakes in how to do it. So imagine a soul line up here. Because we're a project-oriented organization, we had to create this narrative that when we need to make an executive alignment with our clients, I cannot influence how the team works, but I need to have the information about how the experience of that client is going, how the experience of other clients are going. So we created a canvas that answers 4 questions, and every team, and when I mean team, I mean the account executive and relationships person, the team itself that is delivering the work, operations, that is the team that helps the allocation of people and understands how the overall aspects of the work is being done. So as we grow, and now that we have over 15 teams working, I don't want to have to prescribe we need to use Scrum as a process of delivery. We need to use Kanban and continuous flow as a process of delivery. So instead of doing that and allowing that even account executives can have a conversation with our clients, they have to teams have to answer 4 questions. What's the customer's current expectation? And if they are using an MVP type of oriented work, or if they're using a roadmap, if they have a roadmap of things they need to discuss, or if they have a calendar of deliverables that they need, they have to put in there what's the team's current commitment, right? So what the team's working right now? What is the vision of the work that they're doing? What's the history of the last deliverables that we did? And what is the release plan this team is working on? And if we have vision of the results of that, how we do it, what are the risks and metrics we are seeing now? And this is completely focused on context. So the only thing that we prescribe somehow is when we're talking about risks, we need to talk about people risks, business risks, processes risks, and tool risks. And as the team progresses into their learning curve with a relationship with a client might need in here a Kanban of responsible, what are the action items to solve some of those risks. When we're talking about metrics, we define metrics as two aspects. Oh, 5 minutes. We define metrics as two aspects. Diagnosis metric is like when you go to a general practitioner and gives you a bunch of, how you say that? So to go to a general practitioner, they tell you, go take all of those exams, gives me the numbers, and business metrics, they are related to the context of that work. And what is holding us back to reach that expectations with the current commitment? So it's not necessarily an impediment, because an impediment comes from the prescribed Scrum process. And so this is a conversation. It's almost like a DSL that we have on a business level. So governance. When we're talking about governance in the organization, there are some of the rules that we define. So default to open everything. When we're talking about compensation, all the salaries are open so that we don't have to have a discussion that because I negotiated better my salary, I'm getting a better salary than my peers. Actually, what happens is once we remove the constraint of secrecy on salaries, on revenue, when we're talking about compensation, even the founder's compensation is all open to whoever wants to know that information. Contracts, when we decide what is the hour rate that we have with our clients, people actually start to care about the work that they're doing. And when the relation between the work that they're doing and the value that the client's receiving, it's misaligned. We've seen a lot of improvement in the way that they work. Profit, decision, work agreement. So people have to normally present the work that they do. Experiments. So fail fast. Even crazy ideas can be good. So this whole thing about why do we have a secrecy in salary? I'm sorry? So to that point, thinking about your current work in the current organization, if you open the compensation of everyone, there will probably be riot somehow. But that's because we organized based on the principle that we don't trust people. And because of that, everything is secret, because I cannot show that my cousin that knows a manager actually got somehow influencing the decision of how much my compensation is. So there are more deeper problems to be solved in an organization before all the salary is available to everyone to read. When we're talking about established organization. In our case, that was since day one. So that creates, we have to support and coach people, because when they come from the market, they don't actually feel comfortable about talking about their salaries, because that is a problem that we have overall in the organization. So assume good intentions. So every time something happens, assume good intentions. People normally make decisions based on a goodwill, right? Not necessarily they wanted to play against the organization, or they somehow want to cheat and hide things from others. So assume good intentions, every voice heard, and informal networks are powerful. So we do believe that not the structure of the organization is not necessarily the most powerful thing we have. So we define autonomy in the organization by having the information to be able to make a decision, having the responsibility that that decision is yours to take, and the accountability that if something goes well, it is because you did the best job you could possibly do. Yeah, when we someone negotiated their salary to downplay the salary, the others will speak up. When someone is not delivering the amount that's necessary for the compensation that they're taking, the peers will actually speak up, so that the organization needs to solve that. So the problems are much more clear, and the relationships become much more clear when we do that. There are a few ideas of how we're doing this. So we gave an amount. There was $2,000 for the whole organization. Now it's more than that. The organization decides whatever they do with that money. If they want to buy fruits and soda to everyone, time's up. Okay. Okay. So everyone participate in the hiring process of their own role. Developers hire developers. They interview, define processes of how the interview is going to work, and decide whoever is going to work with them. Developers, UX experts, business analysts, administrative roles. So compensation, we've been experiencing compensation. Would take another hour to explain all of the ideas that we have. We even went as far as everyone decides what salary they're going to take, to a more organized process that we have now as we grow. And the teams define their own process. When we're talking about strategy, and this is the last slides. We only, as founders, we only define some of the objectives. Every decision of how we're going to achieve the objectives is defined by the team. And we have 3 months cycle plans, release plans for that, and the organization has multiple town halls where we explain processes. I guess the main challenge is how we grow our culture and our business, maintaining the values, and what we want to do as we grow for above 200 people is actually experimenting on internal markets. Okay, thank you.